Let's be honest, when people hear the word bisexual, their reactions often come wrapped in confusion, stereotypes, or silence. For something as simple as loving more than one gender, bisexuality continues to be one of the most misunderstood identities in the LGBTQ+ spectrum. From media misrepresentations to casual erasure in everyday conversations, bisexual folks are often left out of the larger queer narrative or seen through a distorted lens. Welcome to Bi and Beyond, breaking the myths about bisexuality, a journey to dismantle assumptions, challenge misconceptions, and reclaim the truth about what it really means to be bisexual. So, what is bisexuality? Let's start there. Bisexuality is the attraction to more than one gender. That's it. It doesn't mean you're half gay and half straight. It doesn't mean you're confused or going through a phase. It doesn't mean you're greedy, indecisive, or promiscuous. It simply means your capacity for love, attraction, and connection expands beyond a single gender, and that's something to be celebrated, not questioned. Yet bisexual people often feel like they have to prove themselves, even within the LGBTQ+ community. There's a term for this: bi erasure. It's the tendency to ignore, dismiss, or invalidate bisexual identities. For instance, when someone dates a man, people say, "Oh, she must be straight." If she then dates a woman, the same people say, "Oh, so she must be gay now." The truth is, neither label fully honors the complexity of bisexuality. Because bi people don't switch teams, they're simply themselves, no matter who they love. Then there's the myth that bisexuality is just a stepping stone to being gay or lesbian. Or worse, a phase that people go through in college and grow out of. But statistics and lived experiences prove otherwise. Bisexuality is a valid, lasting identity, just as real and stable as being gay, lesbian, or straight. It's not about confusion. It's about truth, the truth of living in a world that often wants everything to be black or white when life and love exist in color. This episode is about going deeper, beyond the labels, beyond the noise, beyond the myths. We're here to listen to the voices of bisexual people, to unpack the layers of identity, visibility, and pride, and to remind the world that being bisexual is not being half anything, it's being whole. So whether you're bisexual yourself, questioning, or simply want to be a better ally, you're in the right place. Let's break open the binary and embrace the fullness of what it means to be bi and beyond. Bisexuality is not just a phase. For decades, bisexuality has been weighed down by one of the most persistent and harmful myths, that it's just a phase. It's a phrase whispered by doubting parents, joked about in television shows, and used even within the LGBTQ+ community to question the legitimacy of bisexual identity. But let's be clear, bisexuality is not a phase. It is a valid, real, and enduring sexual orientation that deserves the same respect and recognition as any other. Calling bisexuality a phase implies that it's temporary, fleeting, or part of a journey toward becoming either straight or gay. But that assumption comes from a misunderstanding of what bisexuality actually means. Bisexuality is the capacity for romantic and/or sexual attraction to more than one gender, not necessarily at the same time, in the same way, or to the same degree. It's not about confusion. It's about expansion. It acknowledges that attraction doesn't have to fit into a tidy binary box. And that's something many people struggle to accept. When people call bisexuality a phase, what they're often reacting to is discomfort with fluidity. Society is more comfortable with certainty, gay or straight, this or that. But human attraction is far more complex than black and white categories. For some people, their understanding of their orientation evolves over time. That doesn't make it a phase. It makes it a process of discovery. And for countless individuals, bisexuality is the truth they've known all along, even if it took time to say it out loud. There's also the issue of external pressure. Many bisexual people feel forced to pick a side depending on who they're dating. If they're with someone of a different gender, they're assumed to be straight. If they're with someone of the same gender, they're assumed to be gay. In both cases, their bisexuality is erased or doubted. This erasure can cause deep emotional harm, leading to feelings of isolation, identity invalidation, and fear of coming out. It can even affect mental health. Studies consistently show that bisexual people experience higher rates of anxiety, depression, and suicide risk compared to their gay, lesbian, and heterosexual peers. Not because of who they are, but because of how the world treats them. To say bisexuality is just a phase is to ignore the voices of millions of people who have lived openly and quietly as bisexual for years. It's to dismiss their experiences, their relationships, and their truths. Bisexual people are not confused. They are not experimenting. They are not waiting to decide. They are simply being honest about their capacity to love beyond the limits of gender. It's time we move beyond tired stereotypes and listen with empathy and openness. Bisexuality is not a phase, it's a part of who someone is. And like all identities, it deserves to be seen, respected, and celebrated. Bisexual people are not confused or indecisive. One of the most persistent and damaging myths surrounding bisexuality is the belief that bisexual people are confused or indecisive about their sexual orientation. This stereotype is not only false, it's harmful. It invalidates the real experiences of millions of bisexual individuals around the world and contributes to stigma, invisibility, and emotional distress. The truth is simple. Bisexuality is not a phase, a placeholder, or a product of uncertainty. It is a valid and stable sexual orientation, just like being gay, lesbian, or straight. At the core of this myth is society's discomfort with complexity. We live in a world that often demands black and white thinking. You're either straight or you're gay. When someone says they're attracted to more than one gender, it challenges this binary. It disrupts the neat categories that people rely on to understand others. But complexity is not confusion. Bisexual people are not indecisive because they experience attraction to multiple genders. They are simply acknowledging the full scope of their feelings, which exist beyond rigid labels and expectations. Many bisexual people have known their identity for years, even if they haven't had the opportunity or safety to express it openly. Coming out as bisexual doesn't mean someone is still figuring it out. It often means they've taken a long and thoughtful journey to understand themselves in a world that questions their validity at every turn. In fact, the pressure to constantly prove their identity, especially if they are in a monogamous relationship, can lead to deep emotional exhaustion. For example, a bi woman dating a man is often assumed to be straight. If she later dates a woman, people may label her a lesbian. In both cases, her bisexuality is dismissed, as if her truth depends on her current partner. But bisexuality is about the capacity for attraction, not just the behavior or the current relationship status. Accusations of indecisiveness also reflect a lack of understanding about sexual orientation itself. Just because a bisexual person may have had more relationships with one gender doesn't mean they're less attracted to others. Human connection is influenced by countless factors: circumstance, culture, community, not just orientation. People don't owe the world a balanced, dating history to validate their bisexuality. Moreover, the confusion stereotype often leads to bisexual people being excluded or mistrusted in both straight and LGBTQ+ spaces. They may be viewed as not gay enough or not queer inclusion means recognizing bisexuality as its own full and rich identity, not a half measure, not a phase, and certainly not a sign of uncertainty. In truth, it takes clarity, courage, and self-awareness to live openly as bisexual in a world full of misconceptions. Attraction doesn't depend on your current partner. One of the most common misconceptions about bisexuality and other identities that involve attraction to more than one gender is the belief that your current partner somehow defines your sexual orientation. If a bisexual person is dating someone of a different gender, they're assumed to be straight. If they're with someone of the same gender, people call them gay or lesbian. The truth is far simpler, yet far more misunderstood. Attraction doesn't depend on your current partner. Your identity is not erased by who you're dating. Sexual orientation isn't about who you're with, it's about who you're capable of being attracted to. That includes emotional, romantic, and sexual attraction, which exist as an internal compass, not a public contract. A bisexual person might fall deeply in love with one individual, but that doesn't erase the range of their attraction. Much like being straight doesn't stop existing when you're single, bisexuality doesn't vanish when you're in a relationship with someone of any specific gender. This myth is deeply rooted in binary thinking, society's desire to categorize people into either slash or boxes. But bisexuality and attraction in general doesn't work that way. It challenges the notion that identity is fixed solely by external circumstances. It asks us to embrace complexity and fluidity, to accept that someone can love one person while still acknowledging their capacity to be attracted to others of different genders. That isn't confusion. That's honesty. What makes this misunderstanding even more damaging is that it often leads to bi-erasure, a subtle but harmful form of invisibility. When bisexual people are constantly labeled according to their partner's gender, they're stripped of part of their identity. This isn't just frustrating, it can have real emotional consequences. Many bi people feel pressure to prove their bisexuality or experience invalidation from both straight and gay communities. This lack of recognition can result in isolation, shame, or feeling like they don't fully belong anywhere. Another common myth is that bisexual people in monogamous relationships are secretly unfulfilled or more likely to cheat because they're attracted to multiple genders. But again, attraction is not the same as action. Just as a straight person in a committed relationship doesn't stop noticing attractive people, a bisexual person can remain loyal and happy while still acknowledging their orientation. Being bisexual doesn't mean being incapable of commitment. It simply means being honest about the full range of attraction, even if it's not actively expressed. At the heart of it all, we must remember, identity is personal, not conditional. It deserves respect no matter the current relationship status. For bisexual people, this means holding on to their truth even when the world tries to label them based on appearances. Bisexuality includes attraction to all genders. When most people hear the word bisexual, they often assume it refers only to attraction toward men and women. This misunderstanding stems from the prefix bi-, which means two. However, the truth is that bisexuality is far more expansive and inclusive than that traditional definition suggests. In today's evolving understanding of gender and sexuality, bisexuality includes attraction to more than one gender, not just the binary of male and female. This distinction is not just a matter of language. It's a necessary shift that recognizes the full diversity of human identity. At its core, bisexuality is about potential, the potential to be emotionally, romantically, or sexually attracted to people of more than one gender. It doesn't mean someone is equally attracted to all genders or that they are attracted to everyone. It simply means that their orientation is not limited to a single gender. For many bisexual individuals, this includes attraction to non-binary, gender-queer, agender, gender fluid, and other gender-diverse people. This broader understanding reflects the reality that gender is not a rigid binary, but a complex and fluid spectrum. The idea that bisexuality only applies to two genders is outdated and does not reflect how many bisexual people experience their identity. In fact, many bi individuals have clarified that their bisexuality is not limited by gender at all, but rather inclusive of all genders. As bisexual activist Robin Oakes famously defined it, I call myself bisexual because I acknowledge that I have in myself the potential to be attracted romantically and/or sexually to people of more than one sex and/or gender, not necessarily at the same time, not necessarily in the same way, and not necessarily to the same degree. This definition embraces the fluidity and individuality of bisexual attraction, allowing space for nuance and personal variation. It removes the pressure of symmetrical attraction and creates room for authentic self-understanding. Recognizing that bisexuality includes attraction to all genders is also important for inclusivity. When we reduce bisexuality to attraction to just men and women, we erase the existence of non-binary people and fail to acknowledge the people who love them. That exclusion is not only inaccurate, it's harmful. It creates a false division between bisexuality and pansexuality, leading to unnecessary identity policing. While some people do prefer the term pansexual to describe their attraction to all genders, many bisexuals feel the same way but choose the label bisexual due to cultural familiarity or personal preference. Both are valid. In the end, what matters most is how people define their own identity. Labels should serve us, not trap us. Understanding bisexuality as inclusive of all genders is a vital step toward dismantling binary thinking and making space for every kind of love and connection. Bi-erasure and biphobia exist, even within LGBTQ+ spaces. Bisexuality is one of the most common yet misunderstood identities within the LGBTQ+ spectrum. Despite the B being firmly placed in the acronym, bisexual individuals often face a painful paradox: invisibility in a space that's supposed to see them. This phenomenon is known as bi-erasure, the tendency to ignore, invalidate, or minimize bisexual identities, and it exists not just in straight society, but within LGBTQ+ spaces as well. Alongside bi-erasure, biphobia, prejudice, fear, or distrust toward bisexual people adds another layer of harm, making many bisexual individuals feel like outsiders in communities meant to support them. At first glance, it might seem surprising. LGBTQ+ spaces are often seen as safe havens for those who don't fit into mainstream gender or sexual norms. But for bisexual people, these spaces can feel conditional. If they're dating someone of a different gender, they're often perceived as straight. If they're with someone of the same gender, they're assumed to be gay or lesbian. The idea that bisexuality is fluid or expansive tends to make people uncomfortable in a world that craves binaries. This pressure to prove one's queerness can push bisexual individuals to the margins, even in queer circles. Bi-erasure can show up in subtle and overt ways. It appears when media labels a bisexual celebrity as now gay because of who they're currently dating. It surfaces when someone says, "You're just confused," or "You'll figure it out eventually." It happens when bisexual characters are completely left out of LGBTQ+ representation, or when pride events focus heavily on gay and lesbian experiences, leaving little space for bi voices. Even well-meaning people can participate in erasure without realizing it, by assuming bisexuality is just a phase or by doubting someone's queerness because their current relationship looks heterosexual. Biphobia adds another painful layer. Many bisexual people are labeled as promiscuous, untrustworthy, or incapable of monogamy. These stereotypes are not only false, but deeply harmful. They paint bisexuality as something unstable or threatening, rather than a genuine and whole identity. This can lead to real-world consequences, higher rates of anxiety, depression, and isolation among bisexual people, especially those who don't feel welcome in any community. What's even more heartbreaking is that these feelings of exclusion don't always come from outside the LGBTQ+ umbrella. They often come from within. Many bisexual people report feeling like they have to pick a side to be accepted, or that they're never queer enough. This creates a cycle of internalized shame and invalidation that undermines mental health and identity development. To combat bi-erasure and biphobia, LGBTQ+ spaces must become more inclusive and intentional. That means listening to bisexual voices, believing their experiences, and making sure representation includes the full. We've just taken a walk through some of the most persistent myths about about bisexuality and hopefully left them where they belong in the past. What we found instead is a truth that's both powerful and freeing. Bisexuality is not a confusion, a compromise, or a convenience. It's an identity rich in possibility, complexity, and courage. Living openly as bisexual can be both liberating and challenging. It means navigating a world that often prefers clean labels and fixed categories. It means facing questions that others rarely have to answer, "Are you sure? But aren't you married to a man? Won't you eventually choose?" It means dealing with invisibility in both straight and queer spaces, and sometimes feeling like you're stuck in between, rather than fully seen. But here's the truth. Bisexuality is not in between anything. It is a full and valid identity in itself. It doesn't need to be justified, explained away, or proven through your relationship status. You don't stop being bisexual because you're in a monogamous relationship. You don't lose your identity based on who you're dating. Your truth doesn't depend on anyone else, it lives in you every day. It's also important to remember that bisexuality isn't always about being equally attracted to all genders or attracted to men and women only. It can look different for everyone. Some people prefer the term pansexual, while others stick to bisexual as a broad and inclusive label. What matters most is how you define yourself. Language should empower, not limit. And identity should liberate, not confine. Breaking the myths around bisexuality means making space for nuance, for diversity, and for the many ways people experience love and desire. It means celebrating by people who are out and proud and supporting those who aren't ready yet. It means raising awareness about the higher rates of mental health struggles, erasure, and discrimination bisexual individuals face. And it means creating a world where no one feels like they have to split or silence parts of themselves to be accepted. If you're watching this and you're bisexual, know this: your identity is real. You are not alone. You are not invisible. You are not half anything. You are whole. You are enough. And you belong. And if you're an ally, thank you for showing up. Thank you for listening, learning, and choosing to be part of a world where everyone, regardless of how they love, feels valued, affirmed, and free. Let's keep pushing the conversation forward. Let's keep breaking myths, building bridges, and embracing the full spectrum of human identity. Because bisexuality isn't about being in between, it's about being beyond.